Got it. So welcome everybody to the Gut Hormone Connection class. This is actually part 3 of the gut health series of classes, but it's actually the first half of talking about the gut hormone connection. So today we're going to be really focusing on female hormone imbalances, but the other half of this hormone connection to the gut, we're going to talk about in the next class next month. Where we're going to be talking about other kinds of hormones like thyroid, blood sugar, all this kind of stuff, which we'll be touching on a little bit today because the body is so connected. We will be touching a bit on it today, but we'll go in deeper next month. So if you don't know me, if this is the first time you see me, my name is Melanie. I am a gut health coach. I help clients heal their gut and feel better from a lot of symptoms that are caused by gut health imbalances, which in my opinion is pretty much every symptom that we can go through can be alleviated or can be improved by addressing the gut. So this topic in particular, I'm very passionate about with the gut hormone connection, specifically with female hormone imbalances. It's something that I personally have suffered through, and a lot of people that are in my family, friends I know of all suffer through this. Also, I saw in the poll that I did yesterday that the majority of the people following me as well also suffer through this. So I hope this information will be valuable to you. If you have any questions or if there's a word that you don't understand that I'm talking through, feel free to write a message in the message box and I will clarify that. So we're going to be talking about PMS, PCOS, endometriosis, and other female hormone imbalances and what we can do to support healthy hormones through our gut. So first of all, what are some common signs and symptoms of hormone imbalance? And Yanni, if you could go ahead and get to the next slide. Awesome. So there's different ways we can tell if there's a hormone imbalance going on in the body. And these 4 general areas of the body help us see this. And this is not only for female hormone imbalances, this is for hormone imbalances in general. So if there's an imbalance in thyroid hormone or blood sugar hormones, any hormones in the body, these are places where we can see that there is this imbalance. So in the case of skin, hair, and body, things like acne, oily skin, excessively dry skin, dullness, eczema, skin rashes, dandruff, night sweats, hot flashes, sensitivity to cold and heat. These are all some symptoms that we can see in this area that will indicate that there is a hormone imbalance. As far as digestion and elimination, things like bloating, constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, water retention, rapid weight gain, inflammation, body odor. These are all things that we can see or experience or feel that will show that there is a hormone imbalance. Now, of course, when it comes to PMS and menstrual cycle, we know that these are clearly connected to a hormone imbalance, a female hormone imbalance. So things like cramps, breast tenderness or swelling, premenstrual spotting, irregular periods, painful periods, heavy periods, missed periods. So anything that's off with your period definitely shows that there is a hormone imbalance. And that includes cyclical migraines, fatigue, mental fog, weepiness, ovarian cysts, PCOS, endometriosis. These kinds of diagnoses, of course, also show that there is an imbalance in hormones. And lastly, when it comes to stress and metabolism, some signs and symptoms we might see are things like very strong cravings, especially for things like carbs, sugar, chocolate, weight gain, caffeine dependency, insomnia, waking up in the middle of the night, anxiety, and of course, when there's diagnoses like hypothyroidism, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, there's an hormone imbalance definitely hiding here as well. So how do imbalances in the gut, now that we know what to look for, we can go to the next slide and we're going to think about, okay, this is what happens. This is how we would feel if there's a hormone imbalance, but how are these imbalances connected with the gut and vice versa? How is this all connected? So just a little general speech about the microbiome, if in case you weren't here for the other classes. So the microbiome is made up of a complex community of bacteria, viruses, and other microbes that do the work of digesting your food and synthesizing the nutrients. So that just means like taking advantage of them, absorbing them, and using them in the body. And the quality and the diversity of these microbes are will dictate your health, the health of your brain, digestion, metabolism, hormone balance, all this stuff. And it will influence how you feel physically, mentally, and emotionally. So specifically, though, there is a direct connection between the gut and female hormones, because your microbiome, these bacteria and viruses and microbes in your gut, they affect hormone regulation and estrogen metabolism. So we're going to be talking a bit more about this, going in a little bit deeper. So in the next slide, we'll see a little diagram of how the gut and hormones are connected. And as you can see, there's a couple of different ways that this relationship can become imbalanced. So there, as you can see here, it does talk about leaky gut, but leaky gut was something that I talked about in my last two classes. So in case you don't know what leaky gut is, please message me. I'll be happy to send you the link to the recording of the other classes. But I really want to focus on the other ones that are mentioned here: constipation, inflammation, and the way that your gut handles estrogen. So let's start off with constipation. So what does being constipated have to do with PCOS or endometriosis or any other female hormone imbalance, having a heavy period? Like, what is the connection here? Well, the connection is that bowel movements is one of the ways for the body to get rid of excess estrogen. So if there's excess estrogen in your body's super smart. It has ways to take all this excess estrogen and eliminate it. And one of these elimination pathways is bowel movements. So if you're not having a regular bowel movement, which means having a bowel movement 1 to 3 times a day, every day, then this can cause or add to excess estrogen in the body. What does that have to do with these hormone imbalances that we're talking about? Well, diseases like PCOS, endometriosis, PMS, heavy and painful periods, these are all caused by, or can be caused by, excess estrogen. So there's the link. If you don't go to the bathroom, you can't poop out your excess estrogen, you will have this imbalance in your body. So having regular bowel movements is super important and is one of the ways that the gut and female hormones are connected. Let me know if you guys have ever heard about that before in the comments, if you can just say yes or no. I thought, I think we all worry if we don't go to the bathroom, but for me, when I was learning this, I was very impacted by the fact that it affects the metabolism of estrogen in the body as well. So let's continue on. Another one this is new to hear. Amazing. Yeah, Esther, for me, it was also amazing. Anybody else, is this new to you? Have you heard it before about the relationship between constipation and these estrogen dominant diseases or imbalances. Michelle, it's new to you too. Yeah, for me, it was quite the eye opener. And the next one that we're about to talk about too, inflammation. So what does inflammation have to do with, we can stay on the other slide, Yanni. What does inflammation have to do with female hormone imbalances, PCOS, endometriosis, heavy period? Well, unlike most hormones, which are produced by glands and transported into the bloodstream to act on different areas of the body, a hormone called prostaglandins, a hormone family called prostaglandins, are not produced in one part of the body and then sent to where there's a problem. Prostaglandins are created at the site of wherever the body thinks that there's a problem, that there's some kind of injury or illness or damage or infection. And what do prostaglandins do? They create inflammation. Now, as I've mentioned in my other classes, inflammation is not always bad. Inflammation is good. When we break our leg, we need inflammation to take care of it so the body has time to heal it. The problem is when there's too much inflammation in the area like our uterus, then that creates a problem because there shouldn't be inflammation there. There is no injury. And the more inflammation that's produced there, which is related to the prostaglandins, how much prostaglandins are being produced there, the more pain you will have during your period, and the more issues you will have with things like endometriosis and PCOS and whatnot. So if you suffer from excruciating pain during your period, it's most likely caused by this overproduction of prostaglandins, which cause inflammation and therefore cause this pain. And then the last thing, we talked about in the last slide how the microbiome is directly related with the metabolism of estrogen, so which is one of our most important female hormones. Now, what's going on in the gut that has to do with estrogen? Well, in your gut, there's actually a specific group of bacteria called estrobolome that produce an enzyme for metabolizing and clearing out used up estrogen. So that means that there are these little bacteria in your gut that are in charge of cleaning out this excess estrogen and getting rid of it through bowel movement, which is why we saw that it was so important before. But if the gut bacteria that are in charge of doing this job, if they're not healthy, if they're not receiving the nutrients and they're not in an environment that promotes their health and their well-being and they don't feel good, they're not going to do their job. And that is also going to lead to problems with estrogen dominance. So poor gut health can result in estrogen dominance with symptoms of heavy periods, bloating, acne, moodiness, painful periods, low libido, infertility, PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, and cysts. Whoa, that's a lot. Let me know which one of these three for you guys is the most impacting. Was it the information on constipation, inflammation, or the estrobolome, these bacteria in the gut that metabolize? You can enter it in the chat. I'd love to know which one of these is most impacting you right now, hearing about it. Constipation for sure. Yeah. All three. Yeah. For sure. Same, Heidi. It's not easy to be a woman. Okay, so yes, all three because they seem to affect me. Yeah, for sure. So now we know how these are connected, how the gut and hormones, female hormones are connected, how important it is for your gut to be healthy in order to be able to support your hormones, the healthy hormones in the body. Now, before we move on to how we can fix this, I want to share with you guys my story. And this is probably the first time I'm going to share this story publicly. So I hope that, and the only reason why I want to share it with you, because I want you guys to know you're not alone and that it's possible to get better. So you can go to the next slide, Yanni. I want to talk a bit about my story with gut health and female hormone imbalances. So personally, when I started having gut health imbalance or gut health symptoms, imbalanced gut health symptoms, it really was mostly digestive symptoms. I started having a bit more nausea, like in the mornings when I woke up, and I was like, why am I feeling nauseous? I'm not pregnant. I started to suffer from a bit of acid reflux. Then all of a sudden I started having some food intolerances and some food sensitivities to things that I never had before. Started having some skin issues, like with started having like some patches show up here, and I went to the dermatologist and she's like, oh, that's eczema. And I'm like, I've never had eczema before. So my body was giving me these small signs of what was going on, that there was a problem with my gut health. The interesting thing and the connection here with the hormones is that my worst gut health moment was actually linked to my period. So like I said, all these little symptoms were kind of brewing, but I ignored them. And one day I actually owned a home bakery and I was creating a wedding cake for a wedding. I was very stressed and very frantic trying to get everything done. And I got my period. And normally my whole entire life, I would get my period and it would just I would just bleed, but I didn't really have this like nausea, vomiting, pain, all this not so fun stuff that I always heard, of other friends or family members that would suffer through this until that day. So that day I got my period, but I also have never thrown up and had diarrhea at the same time. That's so incredibly intense that I couldn't stop. And I ended up actually in the hospital because I couldn't stop throwing up and having diarrhea. Then everything made me nauseous, every smell. I couldn't imagine eating anything. It was really, really, really bad. And I had this excruciating pain in my pelvic area that I had never had before. And from then forward, I suffered from really heavy and extremely painful periods and all these other fun symptoms like diarrhea and throwing up. Every time my period would come, I would get anxiety because I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be that day. I'm going to be, in the toilet, throwing up, having diarrhea, feeling horrible. So I realized during this time, eventually I started to do research and started to heal myself with the help of a functional medicine doctor who was like, let's focus first on your gut health because all these other things that you're experiencing, they're all a sort of side effect of having bad gut health. And my symptoms have drastically improved since I have healed my gut and since I've been working on healing my gut. And there is still other things. I would say like gut health is the first thing you need to focus on if you're suffering from any of these imbalances. And then if you're still experiencing symptoms that are like too much to handle, then I would consider seeing a functional medicine doctor and really talking about and doing some tests and seeing if there is just sort of an imbalance in hormones, what's causing the imbalance of hormones. If it's not the gut, because if you've already addressed the gut, that should be fine. But the biggest thing is gut health. And with my experience, I was able to see that they're really so closely related. And I don't know if you guys feel comfortable or not sharing, but in the comments, you can just say yes or no. If you guys experience something similar during your cycle, is it like a traumatizing event every month or every time it comes? Or if it's all right, then it's all right. But I mean, I'm sure if you're here, it's probably because you were like me and it's not in my favorite time of the month. But the good thing is there are things we can do to make it better. What I know, is there a functional medicine doctor? I do. I recommend, there's a doctor I recommend like 1,000,000,000% because he helped me so much. And he is continuing to help me. I'm like continuing to work on more and more things as now that my gut health has been all good. So I can send that to you guys. You guys, if you can just message me, or actually I'll write his name here, Dr. He actually lives in France, but he did all his studies in United States, so he speaks perfect English. And that's how I saw him. My husband speaks French, so my husband saw him in French, but he speaks perfect English. So you can just email him. He has an account on Instagram, but it is all in French. But if you go to his link and just write an email to him in English, he'll respond to you back and let you know how you can work with him. But he is great. So next slide. How can we support healthy hormones? That's the big question. So as we saw in the 2 slides ago, the things that sort of cause the imbalance, basically the way to support healthy hormones and to get a better feel through this. Sorry, I'm seeing the comments now. I 100% agree with this. Is also the cause of menopause and gut health, which is my case. Yes, also very heavy and painful periods. I'm so sorry. I have IBS during that time. Yes, this is all connected. I had periods, heavy nausea. Did get scary, not wanting to face the bush. So glad periods are done. I feel yes, it's definitely a difficult thing to suffer from. I have IBS. I just got off the IUD, so my periods are all over the place. Yes, it does take a time to heal. That was actually something else I wanted to talk about when it comes to supporting healthy hormones. And the connection of the hormone and gut. I can't not talk about birth control. So, and hormonal birth control specifically. So there is a time and place, like with every medication that exists and every, pill that exists, there is a time and place when this is very necessary and like sort of the solution or the best way to manage the situation. But in general, in the majority of cases, birth control is actually just like a band-aid that you put over the situation. It's not actually solving the problem. So a lot of times doctors will say like, oh, let me give you some birth control to make your periods more regular. The birth control is not making your period more regular. Your period, if you stop as soon as you stop taking the birth control, your period will still be irregular. The birth control is just sort of putting a band-aid on it so that you don't have a cycle and therefore you don't have the problem, but the actual root cause is never addressed. So a couple of things that we can do to focus on the root cause of these imbalances are things like avoiding leaky gut, which I shared some tips on how to do that, but I'm pretty sure everybody here is part of the Young Living community, either from Oak Tribe or from the Diamond Grove. So that's why we say so much that it's so important to minimize the exposure to toxic chemicals and ingredients, that because some of these ingredients pretend to be estrogens, or the body sort of registers them as estrogen even though they're not, and it causes all these kinds of imbalances as well. So that's one of the great things that being part of Young Living community helps us do, is get rid of all those products that could be causing that. But I would say the most important thing and the thing that's going to move the needle the most is definitely addressing your gut health when it comes to food. So there's a couple of different things that have to do with food. One, providing your body with plenty of nutrients, micronutrients, and fibers that come from fruit, whole foods like fruits and vegetables is very important, because as we saw with the constipation, also drinking enough water is so simple, but it's something that could help avoid constipation, as well as having a diet full of whole foods that are high in natural fibers that help move things along and that feed these bacteria, these good bacteria that help metabolize the estrogen and just take care of your gut in general. Another really key thing to do is to eliminate foods that are causing inflammation. So we saw in the other slide that inflammation is one of those big causes of these imbalances. So trying to diminish or lower the inflammation in your body is very key. And one of the biggest ways to do that is to eliminate foods that are causing inflammation. Now, the first question I get is, well, what foods cause inflammation in the body? I can't tell you that because it's different for everybody. Every single person is different. So I cannot say, oh, nuts and seeds cause inflammation, because maybe they won't for you, but maybe they will for somebody else, or grains or gluten or dairy. For each person, it's going to be different. And that's why it's really good to work with somebody and go through an elimination diet that's tailored to you and your needs, to be able to identify clearly what are the foods that are causing you personally inflammation in your body, and how to read the signs of your body to know that it's causing inflammation. So that's one of the major things. And this is something that I do with my clients. I work with my clients to find out. It's a big part of the program that I do with them, because this is a huge, huge, huge game changer and helping you feel better with so many symptoms, but specifically with decreasing inflammation. Another thing to support healthy hormones is to manage stress. So that's easy to say, but finding daily techniques that you can implement on a regular basis to help keep your stress at bay is going to help also keep inflammation at bay, because stress causes inflammation in the body and therefore contribute to healthy hormones and a healthy gut. Something else that's super vital, especially if you suffer from PCOS, is a balanced blood sugar. Now, sometimes you think of blood sugar and you're like, yeah, but I don't have diabetes, or I've never been diagnosed with diabetes. But eating foods that spike blood sugar have been shown to have a direct correlation with PCOS, because PCOS is very much linked to insulin resistance. So having a diet that favors a balance in blood sugar is very important. Limiting caffeine, which can be hard for all my coffee lovers or green tea lovers. But even if you can just avoid caffeine for the week between your ovulation and when you have your period, that will make a huge difference also in your PMS and painful period symptoms. Something that I've personally tried and saw there is a difference. So I try to implement that every month. Just avoid caffeine for those 2 weeks. I personally don't like coffee, but I love tea. And so I just try to avoid it for those, 1.5, 2 weeks. So that way I don't see a huge issue in pain and, painful periods. And with a good health, with a good nutrition and good lifestyle habits, keeping the microorganisms in your gut healthy and strong. And as you can see in the next slide, it all comes down to daily choices. So every day we have choices to either fuel inflammation in our body or support it and give it the best tools it needs to handle things. So I'm sure you guys have heard, we have to move, we have to eat good, we have to get enough sleep, we have to eat healthy. But there is such a huge power in these daily choices. And it's something that I love to see when I work with my clients. I love to see how much of an impact there is once they start implementing these small daily habits and these changes in their lifestyle, seeing the power that it has on their symptoms, on how they're feeling, and just being able to enjoy life and feel good and feel like yourself again. Because a lot of times all of these imbalances cause us to start feeling like we're not ourselves anymore, which nobody likes. And that's why I that's one of the things I love to hear with my clients. I finally feel like myself again. So these simple daily habits of reducing stress, movement, finding what foods work best for your body, eating whole foods, get enough sleep, these will help you to be able to support healthy hormones. And these are all things that I do that I work with my clients as well. And if that's something that you're interested in, having this one-on-one accountability and support to be able to heal your gut and give your body the best chances with whatever sort of imbalance you're going through, especially now talking about hormone imbalances, then feel free to reach out to me. I love to help. That is it for the presentation. So we can just exit out. That way I can see everybody clearly. And so we can go ahead and pause the recording, and I want to open up the floor to any questions that